All right, here we go, everybody, on this Tuesday. Helena, folks, has entered the race. Yep. All right, now, it is very possible. Oh, no, it is fine. Okay. They were saying initially that there was maybe a possibility of something wrong with Facebook, and there's no problem with our Facebook feed. No, none at all. So, obviously, the Hasbro situation, very, very dire. Now Mckee taking aim at CVS. The guy is a one-man wrecking crew. One mission: try to eliminate all the private companies in the state of Rhode Island. It's pretty amazing when you think about it. That's the goal. And it's just 1:00 right now. We have a special guest that's also going to be joining us and coming up. Okay, the X sound is good. By the way, Tom Holman also went to town. My goodness, on MSNBC. All right, we're going to be joined by Mark Vargas coming up the bottom half of the hour, Editor-in-Chief, Illinois Review. He is going to talk about this situation, and is really becoming like a standoff almost with what's going to happen with the issue of crime. But the big news of the day is, good afternoon, Brenda. There's Lynn Miller. I know, Janet. I did not either. Folks, remember, you can always, if you're on Facebook, you can check. As a matter of fact, if you're on Facebook, check our Facebook page, YouTube page, just in case of an emergency. Okay, I know where to find them on YouTube. And if you're on YouTube and you're watching, why not let's do a little fire. Remember you do a fire drill when you were in school? Let's do a little fire drill. Make sure you know where the Facebook page, just in case, because initially they sent me a notice that, oh, good. Gian says we're good. That there was a problem with Facebook streaming. So I was on the verge of then saying, hey, go check our, it's going to be live on YouTube, but it would seem that everything is okay. It would appear that way. So there's that. Yes. I'll know later today. I believe we're going to have a segment about Kylie later. I believe later tonight. If not, we'll do it another time, and we'll just do Road Patrol Live like we did last night. But Mckee folks, the state is imploding, and I understand why a lot of people are feeling gloom and doom. It's not as gloom and doom as it might seem, as some people seem to think that it is. Is Helena Folks the answer? I don't know if Helena Folks is the answer. Ashley Kalis. Today, Ashley Kalis issued the following statement. Yeah, but she's not running either. I'm not sure what to make. The Republican Party needs someone to run. But to me, it's more about the issues that they would be putting forward, as opposed to just an individual. So, all right, we're going to be live coming up in just a moment. There's Debbie. Yes. Good afternoon. It is a beautiful day, Cheryl. There's Jessica Perry. Hi there, Jessica. Folks, everyone ready? We're going to start in just 3 minutes. 3 minutes, we will begin. And I mean, I don't know who the answer is, but I don't know if it's Helena Folks. What we do know is it's not Governor McGreed. It's not. And of course, he just goes right to his pals at WMKRO in order to help him put out his propaganda. But again, to me, Rhode Island Governor Dan Mckee, I just think he's been governor long enough. We have a sense of what it's like. And it's no picnic. Put it that way. Definitely not. I'm not convinced that that's what people are looking for. I don't get the sense that people want to buy what he's selling. I don't think so. I don't think so at all. So let me just take care of this. Where are we? Boom, boom. Okay. Thursday. That. Okay. Governor Mckee, I mean, the guy he just can't get out of his own way. He just can't. It is a disaster also, by the way. All right, we're going to start in just one moment. To me, and I'll make the case, if it was going to, there's Bruce, it was going to be Governor Juan. That's right. Governor Mckee is focused on bigger things like keeping Newport Creamery in Cranston. Even they're leaving. Listen, it doesn't have to be so doom and gloom. Henry B. is exactly right. You know, yep. When they got Mr. Potato Head, we got Mr. Meth Head, Meth Mouth. When people start saying maybe Chafee can come back, there's nothing new in that, Teddy. Thank you, Bruce. There's no news there. There's no new news, I should say. You're all alarmed by it. Well, he hasn't denied he knew him, and they stopped their friendship. So there's no news there. Nothing, no new news, I should say. All right, we're going to begin, folks, at 106. Good afternoon. It is a delightful Tuesday. We are live right now, AM 1380, 99.9 FM. Now, we're also live on our Facebook page, on our YouTube page, and also on X. So, at least for this part of the program. And remember, this part of the program is we kick things off. And it is brought to you by PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center. Now, right now, everything fall at PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center. Homegrown mums and kale are outstanding this year. Mums and kale sizes ranging 4-inch, 12-inch pots, ornamental peppers, 4 and 6-inch pots, everything you need for all your fall decorations and more. Pumpkins, straw bales, corn stalks, gourds, Indian corn, native vegetables, local honey, maple syrup are available. This is the ideal time. Fall is the ideal time for planting, and they have a large selection of trees and shrubs, perennials. They're open 7 days a week. I share their Facebook page. It's PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center. Now, if you were to log on to DePietro.com, you're going to see a lot of original stories. And one of the things, folks, it is alarming. It is. Because right now, the state is basically under Governor Mckee, as I point out. It's just imploding. It is. And I think, but again, DePietro.com, brought to you by the Coesit Inn. Hi there, Bill. 226 Coesit Avenue, West Warwick. Remember, lunch, dinner, drinks in the lounge, and they're waiting for you at the Coesit Inn. And also, they're going to be having the coffee shop at the Coesit Inn as well. So let me talk about, to start off, and again, we do have a guest at the bottom of the hour. Helena, folks, is announcing and has announced that she's once again seeking a rematch with Governor McGree. And there's several things. A lot of people, where the state is right now, there he is. Monopoly. Henry B. created that. Leaving Rhode Island edition. Governor Mckee is also now throwing down at CBS. And CBS is hitting back at Governor Mckee, and I don't blame CBS. You know, the big question becomes, how many large corporations does he want to alienate? So there's several things about it. This didn't happen overnight. And, Governor Mckee right now, he's trying to say, oh, I brought on all these jobs. Let's just lay this out and be honest. Listen, there's nothing good about this. There's nothing good about it. And this kind of reminds me of the scene in Moneyball. And I've read some people's evaluations of it or their hot takes on it, whatever you want to call it. But there's that scene in Moneyball. If you haven't seen it, I quote the film frequently. I've met Billy Beane. We were both on a TV show together several years ago, well, many years ago now, just when his book Moneyball came out, turned into the movie with Brad Pitt. And there's a great scene in the movie Moneyball. If you haven't seen it, to me, it's more of a business film. It's a marketing film. It's a positioning film. People think it's just about baseball, but there's so many business lessons. And my kids know that I quote it all the time. And I try to tell people, but there's a great scene where Billy Beane, played by Brad Pitt, and they're in with the scouts. And I'm going to mention this to Dan McGowan when we talk on Thursday. But he basically frames to the scouts, the way we're doing things is not working. If we operate like the Yankees in here, we're going to lose to them out there. We can't continue to operate this way. So you're going to hear different people spinning what's wrong. And if you just get caught up in that, it sounds very negative for people that live in the 401. Massachusetts has its own challenges. But I would be curious for someone that wants to approach things differently. Governor Mckee, now his tenure, to me, I mean, the guy never should have been governor in the first place, but he has been. But he's actually been governor too long. I'm not even saying his first 4 years were okay, but he took over because Raimondo left to join the Biden administration. And then he got to take over. And then in 2022, he did win election. The idea of him running for re-election, the state is imploding around him. But you have to look at who he has surrounded himself with. He surrounds himself with organized labor. The state does not have a business-friendly environment. I'm just going to really quickly sum up for you. I think it's not as complicated as people think. But the way things are being done now it's even if you put another governor in there and you just follow the same principles, it's a different jockey on a dead horse is an old adage. Folks, you have to look at where we are. We're in New England. We can't operate like Florida. We can't operate like Texas. We can't even operate like the Carolinas. But it doesn't mean that there can't be success. And I say that as father of 3, and there's no opportunity for my children in the state. Now, granted, their career paths may not take them there anyway, but other people, they would like their children to have successful careers. But if everything just stays as is, nothing is going to, right? What's the expression in AA? Nothing changes if nothing changes. So if you look at the New England states, a big problem with Rhode Island. Of course, Providence can't compete with Boston. But a problem is, much like in Moneyball, if we try to operate like the Yankees in here, the scout room, we're going to lose them out into the field. And so I would argue, and who would I support for governor? Someone that thinks differently. Austin, Texas. Whoever is running Austin had the right idea. We're just going to do things differently than other states. But look at New England. Very simple equation. For those that wonder, what's wrong? It's too corruption. It's not that complicated, but we certainly need new leadership. But you need people that would think differently. And I'll tell you, the way I look at it is, and I've said this, we are sandwiched between Connecticut and Massachusetts. Nothing's going to change that. Nothing can change the geography. But the problem is, one of the problems is Rhode Island Governor Dan Mckee and all the Democrats at the State House, they try to run the state exactly like Massachusetts and Connecticut. But there is a New England state that they should try to model themselves after. And that's New Hampshire. New Hampshire does not run the way Massachusetts runs. New Hampshire is much different than Massachusetts. A lot of people leave Massachusetts and live in New Hampshire. So until Rhode Island starts to change the way it does business and become more business friendly, New Hampshire is a good role model, actually, for the state. All right, we don't have ski and mountains and snow, but New Hampshire also doesn't have the beaches that the state has. But a problem is if Governor McKee is trying to compete with Mass and Connecticut, and you can, and part of Connecticut acts as a bedroom community to New York. And then you have places like Greenwich and Darien, New Canaan. You're never going to be able to match anything like that, even Stanford for that matter. But Rhode Island is essentially the same population as New Hampshire. New Hampshire is a bigger state, but New Hampshire is far better run. New Hampshire does a budget every 2 years. New Hampshire has half the budget of Rhode Island. New Hampshire works with ICE. New Hampshire has no state income tax. Think about that. So who will I be looking for next year? That's when the election's going to be. I would be looking for someone that will, you don't have to model things after the way they do things in Florida. You don't have to model the way they do things in Tennessee. I would just be looking for someone that says, we're in the same geographic region of the country as New Hampshire. They're a little bit farther north. We're going to adopt and model our style of government. They're friendly to business. They're considered a more business-friendly state. They have colleges and universities. They have Dartmouth. There's a lot of people that enjoy living in New Hampshire. And I believe that Rhode Island could at least be more successful than it is if it were more like New Hampshire as opposed to being a poorer version, almost like a tribute band, as I think of it. It's like being a tribute band to Massachusetts and Connecticut. So again, this didn't happen overnight. It's not going to be fixed overnight. I don't know what. Helena Foulkes seems to say, I'll just do a better job than Mckee. But she was a big Nancy Pelosi fan. So I don't know. I mean, at this point, what do I think? I think anyone's better than Mckee. Certainly anyone. I mean, that would just be an upgrade. Anyone would be better than him. And this is actually, it's difficult to witness because he is actually, I should keep him up there. I mean, basically his administration is just imploding at this point. Hasbro didn't reject Pawtucket. Hasbro didn't reject Rhode Island. They rejected the Mckee administration. He's not a player. He doesn't operate like a player. He's a puppet. He's a puppet to organized labor. Folks, Val Lawson is the Senate president of Rhode Island. She's also happens to be the head of NEA Rhode Island, the teachers union. She should not be. That's a conflict of interest. I don't care what they say at the blanking State House or at the Ethics Commission. That's lunacy. The offshore wind scam. It's Governor McKee, as I've talked about, didn't even attend the inauguration. He didn't have to. But someone smart, ambitious, wanting to do things differently would have been there. This guy is a local yokel. Hey, listen, I'm not even getting into the fact that he pals around with Pork Boy and he's only comfortable the people he surrounds himself with. Shahajian, that Tony Silva talks in third person. Governor McKee, he's not, he's just not ready for prime time. The job is too big for him. I have no idea what type of job he was as mayor of Cumberland. I heard he was a good mayor of Cumberland. I've heard people say he was a good lieutenant governor, but the state is drowning in incompetency at this point, and there's no confidence. But what no one talks about is why, and I still don't hear it in the media as much as I talk about it, and Justin Katz talks about it, but I don't hear anyone else in the media talk about it. And the station down the dial, WMKRO, they just pander to him. They just cater to him. They just, we just ask the questions. I would even argue they enable him. They enable him to operate in that fashion. But I'll tell you what, um, that no one really talks about, and I'm going to tell you in a moment. But I want to remind you folks, when you hear about the offshore wind fiasco, doesn't have to be that way. Nope, we don't need that. Propane, Propane Plus, heating and cooling. Log onto their website, propaneplus.com. That's what it looks like. Residential, commercial, heating, cooling. They're available 24/7. It's Propane Plus. Call them 401 885 4209. In Massachusetts, 508 252 3359 for Propane Plus. For all your heating and cooling, you can depend on Propane Plus. So I recognize a lot of people are down on the state. Listen, as many of you know, I mean, I did. I was born in Rhode Island. We ride by where I was born. The half of the hosts down the dial, they weren't born here. They're not from here. That station's run by two guys from New Jersey that just they don't really care about the outcome of the state. But I have a lot of friends here, like you. I live here. You want to see the state succeed. This is not success. This is not what success looks like. One person that I've heard mention is there's a buzz over what Austin, Texas has become. Joe Rogan moved there. A lot of companies are moving there. Elon Musk moved his company there. That's different. They fled out of California. I'm not even saying that Rhode Island has to operate like Austin, Texas, but it's not going to be successful this way. It's not going to be successful in this regard. If you really want to know the problem that the rest of the media downplay, is that basically they are puppets to the special interests in the unions. And business people don't like to get shaken down by the unions. And as I've talked about, Governor Mckee, all the people at the State House, all the Democrats, they bow at the altar of the special interest. I talked about there's consequences. Governor Mckee, Matos, Seth Magaziner, Grabian, the mayor of Pawtucket, they walked the picket line with union people outside of a private business. You don't do that. Side by side, look at what's going on in Massachusetts right now with that Mayor Wu and Governor Healy. Does that really seem to make sense? ICE, Tom Homan, they're rounding up dangerous criminals, murderers, sex offenders, drug dealers that are wanted in other countries that don't belong here. And they're trying to fight them on it. There's got to be an opening for the right type of leader in Massachusetts. It's not Mayor Wu. It's not Governor Healy. But in Rhode Island, those of you that watch Road Patrol Live, I mean, my family has been in Providence since 1880. They left Boston, and they landed in Fox Point. And when I'm out, I think of my grandfather. My mother's father was a Providence police officer. My father and his brother grew up in Fox Point. I had relatives that lived in Providence their entire life. All my holidays were spent in Providence. But I've lived other places. I've traveled other places. The only one I've heard is it was Mayor of Providence, Brett Smiley. He mentioned Austin, but it's a matter of doing things differently. Right? Just like the old adage, the definition of insanity is you try to just do things the same way and you expect different results. So when you have organized labor, and I've had business people do this, picture you build up a company. You build a company and it's successful and it takes off and it grows, and suddenly there's a knock at the door and it's the unions. And they say, hey, congratulations. Now we're going to run your workforce. A lot of people don't want to hear that. A lot of people don't want to hear that. So what do? They leave. And one of the problems is standing behind them is not just organized labor. It's not just, it used to be knee. Used to be, what is he? They're a barnacle. They just attach themselves. They don't create anything. They don't invent anything. They just grab. It's all a money grab with them. But the problem is they have Mckee on a string like a puppet. So that's why the businesses leave. So now you have Helena Folks announced today, and now you have Governor McKee attacking, calling her a drug dealer. I don't know what to, did she make a lot of money off the opioid crisis? It sure seems that way. But I'm not sure that that's the proper. Now, CVS is swinging back. CVS is the largest private employer in the state. And now you have CVS saying, hey, we don't appreciate that to Governor McGreed. But don't you see, he shouldn't even be there. The way they're doing things, you don't need all these state workers. You don't need all these people on the payroll. What? New Hampshire has half of the state employees. I think it's the policies. I'm not going to attack Governor McGreed. I'm not going to attack him personally. I don't really know him. When he first came in, I thought he was kind of a breath of fresh air compared to Raimondi. And then it's one controversy after another with this guy. The job's too big for him. He's not cut out for it. So is Helena Folks the answer? I mean, probably not. But she's going to get a lot of attention because anything would be better than Mckee right now. Don't you understand? It's the Democrat policies are failing. I want to remind you about Arch Design Builders. I received a nice email from Emily that said, Juan, I love listening to your show. I love how you hold nothing back. You do it, you tell it like it is. Do you. Who is that company that you mentioned that does residential design? Emily, that's Arch Design Builders. You can call them, set up the meeting. They're great. 401-207-4124. Free consultation. Contact Roxanne, family-run business, ARCH, Arch Design Builders. What can they do? Well, they could upgrade your kitchen. They could remodel a bathroom, maybe a nice new deck, or maybe you have an unfinished basement or a special project. Arch Design Builders. Family-owned and operated, high-end custom-build customer service. You're going to love dealing with them. 401-218-9707 for Arch Design Builders. I would just argue that so much of this is not complicated, but they make it complicated. The way the bridge was handled. Now with this overtime ridiculous. This is insanity. The police bill for overtime. You don't need people there all the time. The accidents have slowed down. Still, it's still an FBI investigation. It's Mckee, I don't know why he's running for re-election, other than probably organized labor is telling him he has to run for re-election. They own him. He's the restaurant owner in Goodfellas. They tell him what to do. Right? When they say jump, they say how high. What you're seeing in Massachusetts right now, this is insanity. You have dangerous criminals. You have certain high-profile governors and mayors that are literally trying to go to war with the administration and over what? Over crime and over ICE. And look at, what's going on right now in North Carolina. People are saying they're so outraged by it. Well, what's happening in Illinois, you're seeing right now of how you have a situation where you have the president, and they're trying to take action with what's happening right now in Chicago and Illinois. And you have the governor of Illinois ready to go to war. Now, joining us right now, he is the editor-in-chief for the Illinois Review, and someone that certainly knows quite a bit about it. And it's Mark Vargas. Mark, it's John DePietro. Thanks for taking the time to speak to us.
My pleasure. Great to be with you, John. Thank you.
You're on the ground. What's it like? What's going on right now in Illinois?
Well, first of all, greetings from the People's Republic of Chicago. And I can tell you that the residents in the south and west sides of Chicago and in the beautiful downtown Chicago, they're fed up with their political leadership, and they're calling for the National Guard as a deterrence. Why are they calling for the National Guard? For your viewers and listeners, let me just give you just a Reader's Digest version why they're calling for the National Guard. As you know, over Labor Day weekend, 58 shot, 8 killed. To put this in perspective, there were more shootings in the city of Chicago over Labor Day weekend than in Baltimore, Philadelphia, New York City, and Washington, D.C. combined. Yet Governor Pritzker says that President Trump and MAGA are manufacturing this crisis. My comment to Governor Pritzker and to Mayor Brandon Johnson, who's at 6% approval rating, is 67,000 dangerous and violent criminals who are out on the streets because of no cash bail who missed their court hearing. That's not a manufactured crisis. 90% of violent offenders in Chicago who are roaming the streets free because they've never been identified or charged, that's not a manufactured crisis. And finally, 1,600 police officers short, resulting in over 225,000 high priority 911 calls. Calls like shots fired, assault in progress, man with a gun, man with a knife. 225,000 high priority 911 calls went unanswered. That is not a manufactured crisis.
Unanswered. I mean, that is amazing. As someone that we follow crime and work with the police quite a bit, I want the audience to absorb that. Unanswered shots fired type calls. Now, Mark, what about this business where President Trump was being asked, are you going to war with Chicago? I don't view what they're doing in Washington right now with the National Guard. I don't view that as going to war. Right now, they're stabilizing the patient and making it safe again.
Yeah, it's not going to war. Chicago is already at war because of Democratic policies that have put violent criminals ahead of law-abiding residents. Just the other day, just on Friday, actually, I put this out on my X, shared a video of criminals breaking into a downtown Chicago Rolex store, breaking in through the windows using axes in broad daylight in front of everybody, stealing Rolex watches. Now, why would they do that? Because they've been emboldened by the Democratic leadership, again in Chicago, who have reprioritized and put favored criminals over law-abiding citizens. A system that victimizes the criminals and criminalizes the victims. And so it's no wonder why they run the streets free. What's interesting, John, is this statistic. There are, on average, and I think you'd appreciate this, 150,000 gang members and only 11,000 cops in the city of Chicago. They are far outnumbered. And so, again, my point to Governor Pritzker and to Mayor Johnson is that Trump isn't wanting to go to war in Chicago. Under their fair policy, Chicago is already a war zone.
Now, Mark, what can you tell us? Where do things stand? I mean, I did see something on X, as a matter of fact, about, I think is it like Operation Midway, or where do things stand right now? Is the governor and the mayor, are they literally going to try to block the National Guard from coming in?
That's what we're reporting. And again, Brandon Johnson, the mayor, who's only at a 6% approval rating, and that's the truth based on recent polling, the lowest of any mayor in Chicago history. And John, I'd argue in U.S. history of any major city, a 6% approval rating. But since 2022, Johnson and Pritzker have welcomed over 52,000 migrants into the city of Chicago, irregardless of their backgrounds or criminal histories. And as a result, $3.1 billion with a B have been reallocated to make sure that these illegals have food, clothing, shelter. They've stayed in hotels. They're even reprioritizing and demanding, not asking, demanding that groups that support homeless and transition them into housing, that they prioritize the migrants over the homeless resident who's a single mom who's been a domestic abuse victim and has children, or the homeless veteran who's served their country honorably and had the American flag patch on their arm and served proudly, who've run into a little bit of trouble related to PTSD. They've been reprioritized and said, put them at the back of the line and put the migrants, put them in line over our everyday residents. And so it's no wonder that the governor and the mayor have welcomed these violent and dangerous criminals into our city. And they are actually upset and opposing the ICE operations coming in. And they're fear mongering, saying that they're going to literally rip grandmother out of her rocking chair in the living room while she watches Wheel of Fortune. That's fear mongering. What they're ridding the city is, they're ridding the city of violent and vicious and dangerous criminals, sexual predators, human traffickers, international gang members. That's what they're ridding our city of, not grandmothers watching Wheel of Fortune at night.
Before I let you go, Mark, how popular is the governor right now? I mean, your governor is being touted as someone to watch for 28. He certainly seems to be trying to raise his profile.
John, that's a great question. And the governor's presidential ambitions are as wide as his waistline. However, he's been forced to eat a little bit of humble pie. We know he likes pie, and he'll even eat a little bit of humble pie as well. But here's the fact. Out of 12 potential national Democratic candidates running for the Democratic primary for president in 2028, he ranked dead last at just 2%. That poll also indicated that he only had 1% support from the Black population nationwide and 0% support from Hispanics nationwide. So as a result, he decided to run for his third term as governor of Illinois. He's already spent over $350 million of his own money for his first two races for governor, and he's willing to spend that again for his third reelection, because nationally he's polling dead last. And it's because of these far left progressive liberal policies that have reprioritized criminals over residents, migrants over residents, and lawlessness versus law and order. That is why he's polling dead last nationally.
Mark, you are very talented. How can people read some of your great writings and follow your work?
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that, John. Number one is I'm editor-in-chief of Illinois Review. That's illinoisreview.com. You can follow all the breaking stories of what's happening inside from the inside here in Chicago. You could also follow me on X at Mark A. Vargas, and you can follow my Newsmax column called The Potomac Perspective on Newsmax.com.
Mark, excellent job. Keep up the good work. We will talk to you again.
God bless you. Thank you.
All right, folks. There he is. I mean, it does sound a little bit like the situation in Boston, as a matter of fact, the way these mayors in this particular situation, you really have, it's the governor of Illinois, Pritzker's going against it. Now the question is, what is the White House going to do? I mean, they're trying to, folks, when you think about it, it doesn't make any sense. I am seeing Operation Midway Blitz in Chicago. They've lodged over 2,000 detainers in Illinois alone. MS-13, convicted murderers, predators. Just 8 have been honored. See, that is essentially what's also really going on in regards to the fact that our state, that Rhode Island and Massachusetts, they also will not honor these ICE detainees. So now I also want to see, let's see, just I'm looking at some of the statements that people are putting out about Helena Folks running. And the Coventry police have actually put out information. There it is. After investigation, a signed felony arrest warrant has been issued for 23-year-old David Anthony. Last known address, Skunk Hill Road, Hope Valley. He's facing the following charges. Duty to stop an accident, personal injury, reckless driving. So he's the one that they're looking for right now. We'll have more on that. I'll post on him coming up right at 2:00. But Coventry police are looking for him. Suspect identified and a warrant issued. So they know who they're looking for. He's the one that caused that terrible crash, an incident. So now I do want to monitor. Let me just see. I want that. And let's see. I don't know what any of that stuff means. So I don't know why some people send me that stuff. I want to go back to more statements coming in from Folks Kickoff, one from Joe Shikachi. I applaud anyone willing to pursue public service, which from my experience is challenging yet rewarding. The voters will decide next year which candidate for governor has the strongest record of delivering for working families, best ideas to lead Rhode Island. So he's reacting to Helena Folks. And who's this other one from? Ashley Kalis. Ashley Kalis. Helena Folks' failed corporate leadership isn't a resume, it's a warning. Launching her campaign the day after Rhode Island's legacy company announced their departure is the worst kind of political opportunism. Actually, her announcement was planned before the Hasbro announcement. So that's not accurate. An honest leader would admit this isn't about one person's, but a system she's profited from and defended. Again, this is Ashley Kalis about Helena Folks. She launched her career as a corporate raider at Goldman Sachs, learning how to dismantle companies for profit. Now she runs it as an outsider. She privately pushed to pour more taxpayer dollars towards 38 Studios' failure. Her hypocrisy matched by a record of failure. Under her leadership, CBS paid billions in opioid fines. God bless me. At Hudson Bay, she didn't fail. She lit the match. Her campaign isn't a bid for leadership. It's a liquidation sale for the state of Rhode Island. I don't know. Is Ashley Kalis going to run again? I heard she's not running again. I heard that Ashley Kalis, I'll tell you how I see this actually. How I see this about Ashley Kalis attacking Helena Folks. It's my understanding that she wanted to run as lieutenant governor with Speaker Joe Shekarchi. So when I see these statements from Ashley Kalis, I view this more as she's trying to curry favor with Shekarchi, Joe Shekarchi, the speaker, who's not running. Right now, Governor Mckee is the candidate that's running. I view that as she's attacking Helena Folks because she's trying to curry favor with Speaker Shekarchi. So, and as far as she ran a good campaign, I don't think she had strong issues. To me, it was very personal between her and Mckee. There were some people that 100% behind her. I don't think she ran a great campaign, meaning I don't think she hit on issues that really would have made a difference. And she got blown out by Mckee. But I want to touch on one of the other problems that, thank you, Arch, that I don't hear anyone touching on. Now, also, by the way, this guy that they're looking for with Coventry, we're definitely going to be monitoring that. That sounds like we could have he's out there somewhere. We'd certainly like to help them try to find him. But I want to touch on a little bit more about Helena Folks. But folks, I want to remind you about Kids Club. Now remember, Kids Club on the Pike. Do they offer great birthday parties or gatherings for children? Maybe your child was involved with a summer activity or a fall team, and you want to have a big party to celebrate the end of the year. Kids Club on the Pike is perfect for that. Available for a private rental for a birthday party or the entire facility. They also do before and after school care, providing transportation before and after care for school-age children ages 5 through 12. Preschool, half and full day program for preschool ages 3 through 5. Kids Club on the Pike, easy to get to. They're located right on Plainfield Pike, off of 295 on the Cranston-Johnson line. Again, if you're listening, watching, and you're looking for some options, maybe it's for daycare, maybe it's for before and after school care. Kids Club on the Pike, 401-443-5336 for Kids Club on the Pike. So some people are going to be reporting some of the attack lines from she ran for governor in 2000, 3 years ago, fall of 22, and it was Ashley Kalis. And I think a lot of media, they're going to maybe even have her on as a guest. I don't know. But I think one of the things that they're doing is giving her statements, some coverage, because they think maybe this is ginning up that she's going to run. I've been told by very reliable individuals that she's not running again. And she did attend a fundraiser for the speaker in Florida. So I view it more Ashley Kalis attacks on Helena Folks. I believe the attack should be at Governor Mckee. And I think that's why if she's stepping up right now, which she is, and she's trying to attack Helena Folks, I see it as she's not doing it because she's against Helena Folks, Bonanno Folks. She's doing it to try to curry favor with Speaker Shekarchi. Because I have heard, think of that. She actually, this is what I was told, she pitched herself to the speaker of, why don't you run for governor and I'll run as your lieutenant governor. So we'll run as a team. So, I mean, that doesn't sound like much. Let me just see some of the, let's see, former Connecticut U.S. Senator Chris Dodd, also on hand for the kickoff. Boy, we haven't seen him in a while. I see some other people that I recognize. Some elected officials on hand here for the kickoff. Johnston Mayor Policina, who is certainly no fan of Governor Mckee, Senator Lou DePalma, Azuria, and I don't know these other people. So she did make it official. CBS, though, hitting back at Governor Mckee for him coming out. Boy, Mckee came out. I think it's a digital ad, and they're calling Helena Folks, not all drug dealers look alike. Wow. I still can't get past how much Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey, how much she was really sticking it to, really rubbing salt in the wound on the Rhode Island officials. Now, I wonder if that also, Speaker Shekarchi would like to run, and he's not going to run if Mckee seemingly is in the race. So instead, I wonder, is it possible that he even said to Governor Healey, feel free to absolutely tout the Hasbro leaving for Massachusetts. Let me see. Governor Mckee put out a digital ad, and okay. Governor Mckee launches a digital ad, her alleged role in opioids. So this is what.
Not all drug deals look alike.
Wow.
On Helena Folks' watch as president of CVS, the company fueled the opioid crisis, prioritizing their own profits.
Helena Folks is defending her actions at the company, but the lead federal prosecutor in Rhode Island claims the pharmacy ignored warnings and cut corners in filling thousands of opioid prescriptions.
I can tell you that as soon as we saw what was going on, we took action. I took action.
Prosecutors disagree. CVS refused to take action because it didn't want to reduce sales. They accepted secret payments of $173 million from opioid makers to not restrict the flow of pills. And folks pocketed millions. During her tenure as president, the Ocean State reported 1,190 overdose deaths.
I do think that I would be a better governor because I've been through something like this.
Sorry, Helena. You've already done enough.
So that's the Mckee digital ad going after her. Hey, let me tell you, this is early for the gloves off on this. Do you understand? The primary is not till next September. I think it speaks volumes. But I'm going to come back to what I started to mention of where we are right now. And I don't know, is all this, are people going to like now that the fact that Mckee is fighting with her? I don't think the opioids, I don't think that is going to stick the way that the Mckee people think that it's maybe going to stick. Because I hear that from a lot of people about her and the amount of money she made while she was at CVS. And it is true, the allegations that they would purposely overwork the pharmacists who had no time to question a lot of the opioid prescriptions that were coming in. Folks, this portion of the program, though, is brought to you by Serve. Water damage, fire, mold, storm recovery, fast, thorough, professional. ServPro of Providence. Call them 401 941 5500. When disaster strikes, for instance, that was a bad fire on West Shore Road over the weekend. ServPro of Providence, that's who you want to call in a situation like that. They come right in, they're on the scene. Fire damage, water damage. You have a fire like that, you have smoke damage, mold can start. ServPro of Providence, restoration, reliability, results. Or maybe you have a broken water pipe at your business. Water, fire, mold, storm damage strikes. ServPro of Providence. Call them 401 941 5500. Remember, it's ServPro of Providence. Well, folks, I want to come back. So obviously a lot of politics taking hold right now. And Helena, folks, when you look at it, I don't know if she's the answer. What we do know is, and I don't know. She still is voted for Biden. She was on board. There's that video of her I just remembered of her at the convention for Harris, the Democrat convention last summer, saying it's all joy and joy, joy, joy. And I don't think that's the answer. That's not the answer. Is she just, I don't know the answer to a lot of these questions I'm asking, but you just wonder, is she just a more capable Mckee? Is she basically believes in a lot of the same policies that he does, but maybe she just, can execute more effectively? But right now, I think there's an opportunity. If someone, and I don't know who that person is, I don't know if they exist. Remember, in the past, a lot of states, a lot of people that enter public office are people that they have a business background. You go back to what Bruce Sundlund said: first you learn, then you earn, then you serve. And a big problem for not just Rhode Island, but Massachusetts, and it's also a problem actually in places like New York and New Jersey and different places. But as many of you know, a big problem in the Northeast, there's a lot of successful business people. And let's just say, they're in their 55 to 70 range, even though now President Trump is 79. But let's just say 55 to 75. Well, a lot of those people, they've left. They've moved to the Carolinas. They've moved to Florida. They've moved to more tax-friendly states. So there are a lot of people that would probably be very effective leaders, both men and women, but they've kind of forget it. They talk about people move with their feet or vote with their feet, excuse me. People vote with their feet and they say, I don't like the way this is going. And so they move. And I've seen the names of some people that have had success that now they live in states that are more tax-friendly or easier, better programs for retirees and what have you, for a lot of different reasons. And so, like many of you hate the attitude that this is bordering on, last one out, please shut off the lights. I mean, this is pretty dismal. When you have such poor leadership like this, it also paves the way for progressives to get involved and maybe jump into the mix. But I don't know. Let's see how Helena Folks in her rollout basically was just going after the governor, saying the bridge twins shouldn't take so long. Obviously, the Hasbro thing. I will say she's certainly not with the labor unions, because like I've talked about, they're not just with Mckee, they control Mckee. They're not a Dan Mckee fan in any way. I've heard people say that when he was lieutenant governor, because he started those mayoral academies. Governor Mckee, when Lieutenant Governor Mckee walk into a room, members of the teachers union used to walk out. He gave all of that up. He jumped on board. He certainly is not, he did start those mayoral academies in the Blackstone Valley, but that was a long time ago. Folks, this portion of our program brought to you by J. Perry Paving. High quality, fair pricing, exceptional service. Call them for a free estimate today. Now remember, the countdown is on. They only do this work over the next few months, and then you're going to have to wait till spring. Call to get yourself on the list. Call free estimate 401-732-1730. 401-732-1730, letter J, J. Perry Paving. And remember, no one offers a better package for veterans than J. Perry Paving. So if you're a veteran, or maybe your dad is, or your mom, or your son, or your girlfriend, or your grandmother, call J. Perry Paving. Tell them that. 401-732-1730. And obviously, you can find them on Facebook. So I also want to mention this about with Hasbro leaving. It's the climate. As I've stated, not only could Rhode Island could be different, sandwiched in between Massachusetts and Connecticut, sandwiched in between New York and Boston. Rhode Island could be more business friendly, it's not that difficult. It should be, there's good quality of life, it's safe, there's low crime, and you can make a lot of money. And there's a lot of innovative companies. And it should lure people as you're graduating from Brown, RISD, or some of the schools in Boston, and you could set up a shop, and you could launch your business, you could launch your plan, you could, it's a home of startups. That's how it could be positioned. And you create kind of a cultural hub that, there's articles in the New York Times that it's this quirky place in between Boston and New York that has a lot of innovation, and there's a lot of different companies, and it's a different way of life, and it's safe, and it's clean, and people like that there's low crime, and it's very affordable. And a lot of people are saying, I want to start a business there, and it's a different type of business, and then I want to raise a family there. It could have a completely different narrative, but not, you're never going to get that with Rhode Island Governor Dan Mckee. And I don't even hear anyone really at the State House talking in that manner. So I don't know what the solution is. The way things are going now, this is no path of success. I don't know if Helena Folks is the answer. And maybe some people, see, I think as far as the opioid thing, I think a lot of people think of a lot of the elected officials as crooks anyway. So does it really matter? She did. She made a fortune. She made millions as CVS pumped out OxyContin. That's all accurate. So, but does that matter enough to people that they're not going to vote? Well, maybe it is more of a problem. Maybe it is. And I know the Mckee people say, well, that wasn't highlighted enough the first time around. But right now, people that are worried about the bridge, I don't know if they care about that. They just want someone that can run it efficiently. Right now, the state is not well run. Governor Mckee should not be in that position. It's actually ludicrous that he's trying to run for 4 more years. This guy, you want to talk about someone, he will next year have been governor for 6 years. That's too long. He was never fully equipped for the spot. And look at the disasters are not over. I wouldn't be surprised. What if then CBS bails? He touts some of these companies. Amazon. Amazon's opening everywhere. Amazon, there's nothing wrong with that, but they pay like a little bit above minimum wage. Amazon is setting up those hubs all over the country. So that's not like luring companies here. Here's what the voters have to decide: if the state's going to continue to operate as a welfare state. If the state, is that what people want? Do people want a place that under Governor Mckee, safe injection centers, you have all these, everything is about free programs, everything is about handouts. They encourage people to move into the state because then they don't get kicked off unemployment. They don't, does the state want to operate as a welfare state? And by the way, that's very possible that the people do want to run it as a welfare state. I know that some people don't like hearing that, but look at my post last week. There are still people saying that, leave that guy alone. He should be able to live on the sidewalk. There are people that look at all the homeless on the West Coast and say, oh, that must be nice. They get everything for free. So I don't know. Helena folks did announce. I'm more curious to see if the Republican Party can come up with someone who would be more in line with a lot of the policies of this administration. All right, later we're either going to do an interview, we're going to be out on Road Patrol Live. If you're listening to the radio, stay tuned for the 2 o'clock news.